previously on 58 Keys, OmniFocus 4 comes out, right? It's my absolute favorite to-do app. I am life support dependent on it. And you and I we got a whole hour-long video about every detail I knew or I could find. And officially, that was called 58 Keys 3 Biscuit Guide to OmniFocus, meaning that it covered everything I knew or could find out. And it was there for so long that you needed provisions along the way. All of this is true, as is how actually even the developer, the Omni Group, refers to that video as OmniFocus the movie. But not all of it is true. I didn't cover everything. I specifically did not cover one thing, which you don't need, but which if is useful to you is extraordinarily useful. In fact, it is so useful that it is yet another thing that I believe, no, it clearly does, sets OmniFocus apart from even the other heavyweight to-do apps like Things 3, still a great name, or Todoist Pro. And this thing is automation. OmniFocus can do things for you automatically. When I go to a school, for example, as a visiting author, it's always different, of course, but there are always, it turns out, 10 things I have to do, from contacting the school beforehand to writing the invoice afterwards. I like all of this stuff. With OmniFocus, I push one button, and then I'm asked a few questions and all 10 tasks are added. And I don't just mean that's some kind of template. I mean, I push the button and I am asked what the date of the school visit is, and OmniFocus, bam, has a project that has the date for visiting that school, the date the day after for invoicing, and a task the day before to pack the gear I'm bringing, and a legal form called a DBS check here in the UK. And I want to say that it has a task for me to contact the school 1 month before, but I realise it might not be a month, it might be 6 weeks. I don't know anymore because I no longer have to know anymore. I worked it out once, now it's a button. There are somewhere between myriad and infinite ways to make OmniFocus work for you over and beyond everything that comes in the box, so to speak. And here they are. Actually, because you asked for this as well, get ready for the 4th biscuit. Get that ready to eat. Bring some tea as well. Hello, I'm William Gallagher, and this is 58 Keys, which, as ever, as always, is for writers like you and me who use and who write and do other sorts of work on Macs and iPhones and iPads. I do subscribe or support 58 Keys on Patreon because, well, this time there are 3 things to talk about. 3 things, all alike in dignity, in fair OmniFocus, where we lay our scene. First up is going to be using shortcuts on the Mac, the iPhone and the iPad. Second is that school visit kind of thing. I know you know this, but let me say it anyway. The detail of what I happen to use this automation for hardly matters. It's how it works, and therefore how can you use it for your work. That's what's important. It's like, I just want to show you one way. And then lastly, the bigger one, there's a whole world of biscuits required here called omni-automation. And I'll tell you now, the Omni Group, and in particular Sal Sagoyan, plus Naomi Pierce and Ken Case, the 3 of them held my hand through learning this. And it is no reflection on them. It is all reflection on me. That I was really delighted to find that someone else has already done precisely the automation that I wanted to try. You're going to see this a lot, especially in this last section about omni-automation. It's this immensely powerful thing, but there are already hundreds of examples done by other people. It's a bit crazy in a way. If there is a feature you want that OmniFocus somehow doesn't do, then there is at least an extremely high chance that someone has already added it through omni-automation. And I believe it's as close as you can get to certain that if they haven't, you can. But we'll get there. First up, OmniFocus and shortcuts. Open shortcuts for me. I'm going to do this on the Mac, but you can do exactly the same thing on the iPhone or the iPad, and you do it on one, it works on all of them. Type OmniFocus into the search box there, and here's everything you can do. Let's work an example. I think I want a quick way to add really important tasks to my OmniFocus list. So add item. There it is. As it happens, I use a tag, a label, that's the word. I use a label called first 10 for everything that absolutely, totally has to be done today. You'll never guess how many of them I allow in a day. So in there, set a tag for first 10, done. That, to me, that means important, and you'll see it later. I've set this to be added to my shopping list. It's just easier to pick that than to show you the mess and indeed the mass of projects I have. Flagged estimated minutes. I don't care. You might. I don't. That's the thing with OmniFocus. It has all of these features, but you just use the ones that are useful to you. And I know that will change over time, but right at any time, use what you need. Estimated minutes, for example, never use it. I have never taken the time to think, oh, this is a 5-minute task, that one's an hour. I just know I've got to get it done. So there it goes. What I do care about, of course, is what the task is and also when it has to be done if there is a deadline. This OmniFocus add item thing, it has spaces for all of that, but I have to tell it what I want, and they will be different every time, each urgent task. I'm not going to add the same urgent task in so often that I need a shortcut for. I mean, if it's that urgent, just keep doing it. Yeah. So you use shortcuts, other tools, the more general ones that apply to anything you're doing. Ask for input, for example. I want text. I want to be asked nicely. So ask for text with a prompt. What's it all about, Alfie? It's a quote, yeah. Now, back to that OmniFocus box, select a variable so that now it says add provided input to shopping. Still needs the date. If it is really urgent, well, that date is presumably today. So search for date, get the current date, insert variable, choose current date. So here's my shopping list. Am I really showing you this? Here's my shopping list as it stands at the moment. And now we run the shortcut and that item is added to my shopping project. We're done. Or we can be done. Obviously, it doesn't, I don't even know if you have a shopping project. It doesn't have to be one. If it does, it can be any project. And more usefully, you could use shortcuts to present you with a list of your OmniFocus projects. OmniFocus will tell shortcuts that list and have you decide which one it goes in. You could specify a date. Instead of just today, have it asks you, when is this? And maybe most importantly, you don't have to do what we've been doing here and open the Shortcuts app to find and then run this every time you want a task that is so urgent. It's so urgent that you must add it now, but not so urgent that you've got to be getting on with it. Okay, don't overthink the example. Give this shortcut a name, okay? Then on the Mac, you can add that to your Shortcuts menu bar, or you can add a keyboard shortcut. You can click here to add it to your Apple Watch. I mean, there are also ways to add it to your dock, but I think maybe the most useful is to add it to your home screen on the iPhone. Done. Shortcuts and OmniFocus. Love it. I do actually especially love this one option, this further option. In that list there, add TaskPaper. That's next. That's how I do the school run. First, please, a little step back. Forget OmniFocus for a second. There is another to-do app called TaskPaper, made by someone completely different, no connection, and it's like an exceptionally minimalist task manager. You really do just write down a list of what you need to do. In that, you also had, the codes isn't the right word, but something like codes. To create a project like my shopping list, for example, in TaskPaper, I could type the word shopping followed by a colon, and that's a project made. To add a task to that, well, I just type a dash, hit return, type a dash, and then write the title of the task. There are quite a lot of these things, these codes, symbols, whatever, but the key thing is that TaskPaper is a plain text list with some twiddly bits. OmniFocus can read the twiddly bits. Let me show you my school visit routine. Look at it. All of the stuff at the top is about asking me when the visit is. That thing I said of asking me the date, plus in this case, which school, who's the contact, just a bunch of things that I know I will need later. But you scroll down to the end of that shortcut and then there's this. that text box is a plain TaskPaper formatted list. Look at the first line. There's a colon at the end of the, I was going to say ends, but it kind of nearly ends with a colon. So that's a new project. AA, month name, at school name, colon, at parallel, false. The at parallel false bit, it's a specific command for OmniFocus about the type of project I want. I imagine you can just leave this off, but whether I do it automatically or manually, what you can do in OmniFocus at any point is to say that a new project should be basically what they call parallel or basically what they call sequential. Sequential is easiest to get. It's a project that can only be done in specific steps in a specific order. And the great thing of OmniFocus is you can just have it so it always shows you just the next step, none of the rest. You do that and then the next. Fine. With parallel, everything can be done in any order, near enough. And this at parallel brackets false thing, what it's saying is really just actually don't make this a parallel project. Just get on with it and stuff. I'm making it sequential because there are certain things I have to do in certain orders. I can't do the invoicing until after I've done the school visit. Up to the side of that line, I think it makes more sense if you see the end result. Can't show you a real one, so let's run a shortcut that uses TaskPaper. Skip through the questions. I'm going to set this example on Christmas Day so that if I don't forget to remove it after you and I are talking, at least I have a chance at spotting that it's only an example. And here's that example in OmniFocus. All of that is created by this TaskPaper format, but notice the title, AA month and year at school name. That's what all that stuff in the first line does. AA, by the way, stands for Authors Abroad. It's the company that I tend to do my school visits through. And that's it. That's the whole idea, really. I write a shortcut that asks me for each bit of detail that I know I'm going to need later. It saves each bit of detail into a variable, and then I have this final text box, which is in this TaskPaper format. It's made up of some text like AA, followed by these variables that are placeholders that are filled in by the answers I've given about the date and so on. This shortcut, right, then takes that TaskPaper format. The shortcut kind of grows the TaskPaper, it fills in the gaps for it, and takes that format, throws it at OmniFocus, and OmniFocus knows how to catch it, really. And one particularly good thing about this, one thing that makes this worth doing more than just a template kind of thing. Look at the TaskPaper text box again. See that one? Dash, contact teacher name, at school name with standard hello, at due, session date, -2M. Now compare that to the final task in OmniFocus. I've just realized actually apparently it's not 1 month or 6 weeks, it's 2 months before the visit that I contact the named teacher. I genuinely didn't remember that because I don't ever need to. That's due session over 2M for 2 months. It means that, hang on, what's 2 months before December? 2 months before December, when that date rolls around, my task list for that day will now automatically include contact this teacher at that school about this visit. And just to show you, dash invoice Authors Abroad for school name, and yeah, at due, all of that. That means I invoice the nice people at Authors Abroad 1 day after the school visit, every time. I think seeing it quickly like this, you get the idea, of course you do. You see how it all works, but you do also see that there's potentially a lot of detail. I mean, -2M, that parallel fault, yeah. The Omni Group has a whole guide online to every permutation of this, every detail, and I must have read it. I know I must have read it, but the thing is, I just look for the bit I need in order to do the task I want. And once I've done it once, I copy it and change it. So shortcuts can be quite powerful. They can especially be powerful because of this Add TaskPaper option. A whole level beyond that is omni-automation, which is amazing and a bit daunting. I felt so. You might be water, duck, all of that, but daunted or diving in, you can learn omni-automation and you can make OmniFocus dance with. It already does dance, but dance further. OmniFocus, but also omni-outliner, omni-plan, omni-graphel, all of the Omni Group's apps on all of its platforms, Mac, iPhone, iPad. If there's something you want that the app doesn't do, well, actually, yes, it does with omni-automation. And as it happens, really surprised at this, but as it happens, there is something that OmniFocus does not do that I would like it to, please. You saw me adding in today as a due date in my urgent task, but you did also notice, I didn't mention it, but you saw it, the defer date in the same box. I just skipped over that. A defer date is a thing of beauty, and every to-do app should have these, should use these, and at least most don't. A defer date is when can you start working on a task. So maybe I have a report that's due on the 10th of the month, but it's a complicated thing. I need time to write it, and somehow, there's going to be some information that is absolutely, totally required for that report, but it cannot be available. It doesn't exist before the 5th of the month, say. My due date is clear. It's the 10th, and I need to work on it in advance, but I clearly cannot do anything until the 5th at the earliest. So I can set a defer date of the 5th and then forget the whole thing until the 5th comes around, and there's my task. It's not due yet, but on my list, it's on my list where I can see it and where I can do something about it. Only, quite distressingly often, I don't get to that deferred task on the 5th. It takes until the 6th or the 7th. And OmniFocus, out of the box, only shows you deferred date items on the date you've set them to be deferred. If you don't do them then, the due date stays where it is, but the deferred date doesn't move on. It doesn't show it to you on the list on the next day, and I would like it to. I would like to at least be able to select a task, hit a button, and have that deferred date move on to tomorrow. There are two ways to do this in OmniAutomation. First, you do it all yourself. Yeah, you might find that the easiest way. There's a tool to start you off on any OmniAutomation, but then you add in the commands you want where it tells you to add in the commands you want. These commands, these controls, these options, they are legion. This is a whole programming language, and I do think it is a marvel that it's there. But like I say, for me, a daunting marvel. So here's the other way of doing it in OmniAutomation. You look to see if someone else already has. And in my case, yes, they have. Find the existing OmniAutomation, download it, you've got it, it's done. I actually thought that you and I were going to need several more biscuits to cover OmniAutomation, but I think we can stop there. I think that the fact so many of them already exist, and you can see them as examples, and you can learn to copy from them, I think that's enough for us now. Oh, except for one thing, because I think this will amuse you. I said there was this one feature I wanted that OmniFocus doesn't do, but that you or I could make it do it through OmniAutomation. Yeah, turns out the Omni Group has now added a feature that's, it's at least very similar to it. Seriously, if you want OmniFocus to do something it doesn't do, please check first to see whether it actually does or not. In this case, in OmniFocus Pro, you can add custom perspectives, custom views on all of your tasks. And now one of the options you can do this with is show me everything I haven't done yet and which has a defer date. Any defer date in this case. You could maybe adjust it a bit more than that, but that's what I did with this. And that's the lot. That's all my defer dates. I'm now using this perspective and it is helping me. I'm not yet, I think, properly up to my elbows in OmniAutomation because yet again, I haven't had to be. Use what you need. When I hit something else, right, that I want that really isn't in OmniFocus, well, I'll be back watching the videos. I'll be reading the Omni Group's extensive documentation and looking to see if anyone else has already done what I want. But then actually there's also this. I do know for certain that there are many things I have to do that are the same every time or the same with tiny differences, like the school visit. Or actually when I start a new 58 Keys episode like this, the topic's different every time, the dates are different every time, but the core is the same. Let me show you. Here's my shortcut for starting a new 58 Keys project. It makes all the right folders in all the right places. Also, actually for 10 years now, 10 years, I've been running young writers workshops one Saturday a month. 10 years, from September to June or July, and after each workshop I run this shortcut which has this TaskPaper elements in it. In each of these cases, with every automation, you have a specific need and you can break it down into certain steps, into distinct tasks. It does take time figuring out those tasks the first time. And I am always altering or twiddling something as, you know, as things go on and things change. But time spent thinking about steps now, time spent looking at how to do this now, and time spent looking at shortcuts, at TaskPaper, at omni-automation now saves you a lot of time later and a lot of thinking. Actually, I truly do not remember how far in advance I should go to school and visiting. Because like I say, I thought about it back when I started years and years ago now. And I know, I trust OmniFocus. It will tell me when it's time to do it again. And that's surely the point of a to-do app, isn't it? To what have you got to do? What can you do? That's it. And also, I think actually this is surely the end of the fourth Biscuit discussion. Thank you for watching. Thank you for asking for this extra part. And actually, thank you enormously to the Omni Group people who were great at walking me through automation, and actually were also just really good company while they did it. Now, whether you automate or whether you have to-do tasks, write more. It's important, okay? Take care of yourself, write more, and I'll see you soon.